Wait, are you on the air right now?
So are we switching back into the presentation? Are we going to take it back?
You're on air, kids.
Okay, we had some technical difficulties, but here we're back. So we're starting from square one.
My thing is not on there. I need the link. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I guess we're good to go. All right, so welcome to Tech Tuesday, everybody. Hosted by Hawaii TechWorks. Oh, we should actually mention the sponsors. So my name is Andrew Wessels, and
I'm Teddy Durego.
And we'll be co-hosting today. Jeez, we've got a bit some technical problems. I think we're good now? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we would like to thank, can you make that bigger? A few of our sponsors. We have Aloha Made Cost Recovery Systems, and Nalukai, HTDC, and HCEOC. So we would actually like to thank our sponsors for helping us make this event possible. Go to the next slide.
So the rundown for tonight, we're going to do the overview, which is this, and what Hawaii TechWorks is all about. We're going to make some announcements for some upcoming events. Then Tiger Oaks will be our first speaker, and Lori Sumie will be our second speaker, and then we'll be wrapping things up.
Yeah. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So for those that are new to Hawaii TechWorks, a few things to say about. So Hawaii TechWorks is a community of design and tech professionals geared towards outreach, collaboration, and launching new ideas. Our goal is to drive the learning of new skills, make new products, and collectively access a global market of opportunities for Hawaii Island. I think that's good. Let's move on. Okay, so some announcements.
So we have upcoming the Hilo Game Developer Meetup on June 26th, which is this Thursday. That's going to be at the Exchange, and you can contact Don Kosak for more details. We have the Refresh Web Developer Meetup on July 1st, which is also at the Exchange, and you can contact Edward Mihan for more details. We have a social media event on June 30th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at HCEOC conference room, and you can contact Denise Leitinen in the back for that. We have a game developer workshop on June 27th to June 28th, which is this Friday and Saturday. My coworker and I will be hosting that for little kids to learn about coding in general and some game development. It's supposed to be fun. The kids will make their own game, and kikitech.org for details on that. These events are on meetup.com, except for the last one. So our first speaker for tonight will be Tiger Oaks.
And we're going to be having an interview with Mike Purvis, and Tiger Oaks is going to be remote. So.
Hey, Tiger. Welcome.
Hey.
So I'm going to give a little
Yep.
background on this. So there's actually a national movement to have like STEM activities involving high school students. And the first state to actually do this has been Hawaii. And so there was an inaugural House STEM App Challenge. And we are joining the first place winner of the inaugural STEM House Challenge right here, Tiger Oaks, all the way from beautiful Hawaii on Big Island. We really want to thank you very much, and maybe we can give you a warm round of applause. So let's kind of run through this in order, and I'm sure we're all curious to hear what your app is, and we'll get to that soon. So first of all, how did you hear about this this competition with Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, I was told about the competition by a couple people. I was contacted by it through my school principal and also a friend from homeschooling. So but initially I didn't plan to enter the competition due to being busy. But later on in April, the competition went on my radar again and decided to enter with some new ideas I had gained.
So you already had some ideas, and that reminds me. So you are, what level in high school are you, and which high school do you go to?
I go to Marby Thompson Academy. I just finished the last year as a junior. I'll be senior next year.
Excellent. And so what is this app that you created? What was it you submitted, and what's it called? And if you have a demonstration, we'd love to see it.
All right, so I'll put it on the screen. I created an app called Big Island Buses. It's a schedule app for a phone, a laptop. It works on any device with an internet browser because it's set up like a website. It was designed to replace the schedules that are just PDFs right now that Helion currently offers, which can be a pain to navigate in mobile. If you're trying to find a specific stop, it becomes difficult to find because you're trying to look for each separate different page of the PDFs. And then the bus stop names can be really cryptic. Like, I had no idea what Kappa Alta Dispensary or Hawaii intersection are, and I tried to fix that with my own app. So I have a demo here. The app works as a website. Anyone can access it. It's free, available to anyone, no ads, and you just look for any route, such as the shuttle in Waimea, and it will pull up all the data through JavaScript. It'll pull up a map and give you a list of all the stops and show you the times that are closest to the current schedule, to the current time, and then you can also switch to other times. And also look at street views for specific locations, like Lakeland and Waimea. So you can figure out the exact address, exact location. You can get directions on Google Maps if you want, instead of just having to deal with paper.
This is great, and I know this is a conversation we've had quite a few times here with TechWorks guys. Is how in the world do we make this away from PDFs and toward digital? And you're doing a great job here. And I have a question. When I was looking at your site and looking at the source code, it looks like you built this guy from scratch. Is that correct?
It's entirely from scratch. It's all my own code except for Google Maps, which I use for their API.
That's really great. And so you can see it at tigeroaks.com/Helion. Is that right?
Yes, it's a awkward spelling. It's Tiger Oaks, OAKES/Helion.
Nice. Well, this is great. And let's talk about the actual awards ceremony. So this is obviously a very big deal, and walk us through what this was like, meeting the Congresswoman, and where did this all take place? This is on Oahu. Is that correct?
Yes, it took place on Ford Island, which is normally restricted access for the military in Pearl Harbor. So it's very exciting to be able to go there. We got to see the NOAA Center that was newly built, I believe in honor of Daniel Inouye, and in addition to the ceremony, we were given a tour of the center, which was very interesting, seeing how they used air distribution to cool the center naturally instead of having to purchase heating and other improvements to save energy.
It seemed like after I happened to be there as one of the judges, and it seemed like after the ceremony, Congresswoman Gabbard was talking to you about what the future could be, and asking you about how this could be on buses the same way that in Oahu we can track buses. Did she talk to you more about the future of this kind of thing, and have you moved forward with talking to the county, and what does that look like for you?
Well, yesterday I contacted the administrator of the mass transit agency on the Big Island. I've told them about my app. I've wanted to introduce the app to the system and hopefully get it integrated officially. For the future, I'd like to make some improvements. Like instead of using my own custom written schedule system, I want to use the general transit feed specification format by Google, which will allow us to put the bus schedule onto Google Maps directly, along with anyone else who has a bus program who follows this standardized format, and also possibly integrate GPS data so we can have live information on the buses in the future.
Yeah, well, this is just really great. I think in the beginning you might have flashed some of the awards you got. Could you do that one more time? I think we might have missed that.
So the official award is this small plaque. And then they also gave me, Miss Gabbard gave me a much larger award. Over here. A little excerpt from Mike. Your idea solved a much bigger problem, one that many grown-ups have talked about at the university level and the Daily Coconut Wireless. And a couple other certificates from the governor, the mayor, and the Congress.
Well, this is a really big deal, and we really want to say great job. And over here at TechWorks, we're always kind of scouting for interesting people doing like innovative tech, and you just really fit the bill. And we really appreciate you coming on. And we want to end with a final round of applause. Thanks again, Tiger.
No problem.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike Purvis and Tiger Oaks, for that interview. We're going to go to our next presenter. Okay, next slide. Thanks. Laurie Sumie is ready to present.
Stand here. Hi, nice to see everyone here. So, yes, I'm a director, producer. I do documentary arts, so I've so far done 2 films. My background is in interactive media, so this is an opportunity for me to take my career in interactive media. I went back to grad school to study documentary filmmaking, and now all the rage is transmedia. That is all everyone's talking about in documentary, and so there's not a lot of good transmedia in my opinion, and because I've been working in interactive media for so long, so I'm like, I should try to take the things I know and do something on a subject that I really am interested in. So I'm here working on this documentary. It's called Return of the Native Hawaii, and this is a story about this island and some of the really rare special forests that are here. So, this. Oh, how do I? Where's this? So now how do we? Arrows here? Or that?
Nope, not working.
So I wanted to start with what is an interactive documentary, because that's the question I get the most, since it's not a terribly common thing. It's a nonfiction narrative. Oh, this button. Oh, I'm sorry. It's interactive. So this is like the most basic description that I could come up with, because I don't think there's an official one. But I really think of it as something that's on something that is digital. It could be a tablet, a video game system, but it uses the technology to tell stories that users can actually change. Because I don't count watching a video on your iPad as interactive. Maybe in the future it will be, but right now I feel that an interactive aspect of storytelling has to allow the user to do something that really changes something. Oh, shoot. Sorry. The left kid. Sorry. Okay, so I mean, this audience probably knows a lot about this, but filmmakers usually are not as clear on this. But multiple entry exit points, fluid and transmutable. You know, any of you who have played games or have done any interactive media, you understand how that story is not static. It can change, it can branch, it can allow the audience to sort of change the way that you experience the story. So the structure that I'm working with is really inspired by video games, and I'll get to show you that in a couple slides. I went backwards. What happened? Sorry. Can someone just click and I point at you? Okay, forward. The right side of the screen. So why am I picking native forests? Because, you know, they're just trees, right? Well, yeah. A lot of people in Hawaii actually don't know that most of the forests that you see around you are non-native trees. And a lot of people just saying, oh, it's so green, it's so beautiful, like, there's nothing wrong with our ecosystems. But in actuality, we only have 8% of our native forests left, and we have the highest rate of endemism in the world, and we are also the extinction capital of the world. So most of the plants and animals that are actually native to here are way up in the mountain. Nobody ever sees them, and they're extremely rare and endangered. And it's like, wow, like there's some really cool rare things that nobody ever has access to. So I was like, how can I use technology to share some of these really amazing, cool places? So the vision of the project is to kind of create something that can share these places that are really, really special and really rare, that you can't just walk in there. Like, I had to get special access to get into some of these places. So real life, beautifully rendered, exquisitely soundscape, richly textured environments that recreate the experience of getting to and walking through a wild, remote Hawaiian forest. And I say getting to because it takes like 2 to 3 hours to get to these forests on a dirt road. And it is like, that is part of, you know, you are leaving civilization. You are in the middle of nowhere. And that, I think, psychologically, that's important. And also the sound of these places is very, very unique and distinctive. So that's another aspect of the place that I want to capture. And, you know, they're just really amazing, beautiful places. So the concept. This is the thing that is different in this particular story. You are the main character, and if anyone has played video games, you are usually the main character. It's always your point of view. This is not something that's usually done in documentary. It's very hard to do that, actually. I want to transfer my experience of actually getting to meet these people and going through these forests, so you feel like you're the one meeting them for the first time. You're the one who you're getting a phone call or a text message, like, meet me at this random spot, and it's 6:30 in the morning, and then you have to meet some stranger, and they take you up to some forest. Like, that is my experience, and I want you to have that experience. So that is what the idea behind you being the story, the center of the story. So. And then, you know, there's multiple kinds of Hawaiian forests that most people think of as ohia trees and like rainforests, but there's quite a diversity of landscapes and environments that are really pretty unique. And only actually on this island, some of these places. So, and you get to meet these people who work in these forests and spend time in these forests, and, you know, they are totally knowledgeable and amazing, and I want you to feel like you met them for the first time, and they're telling you stories about their experiences. So platform. There's lots of platforms that this could be on, and web is certainly one of them, but I really am focused on the iPad because I have lots of friends with kids, and they are obsessed with these things. Like, they are so into iPads and tablet, the touchscreen. I think this is the television for this generation, and there's no documentary content for this audience. And I'm not designing for this age, but this is the future, in my opinion. So, you know, the question is, how do you engage these audiences that are not going to watch documentary films on PBS, even when they're old? Like, this is an old media, so how can you create these types of stories? And so I wanted to design an iPad story app for young adults, 12 to 18 years old, to get them into the forest. So now there's a lot of programs in Hawaii that actually get school kids of this age to actually visit forests, but not all kids are so lucky. And like I want other kids who maybe live in Oahu or on the mainland a chance to visit these places and have this type of experience, but they don't have to get on an airplane and fly here. So one of my inspirations is a game called Myst. Maybe some of you might know it. But I really like the idea of discovery and mystery and wandering through these places and discovering things for yourself and discovering the stories on your own and maybe getting lost. And also integrate video game potentials, serial dramatic structure, and Hawaiian novel themes. So since my audience is younger and there's certain themes of survival and coming of age, it's like I'm actually forcing you to be a 15-year-old in this story because you're being gifted a trip to Hawaii by your great aunt. You have to deliver a package to some guy who lives on Mauna Kea. You don't have an address. You have his name and it's a little slip of paper, and you have to call these people to help you get to this guy. And so you're a little 15-year-old, you're getting all these people, your aunt's friends on the Big Island to help you get to this guy, and through all these little shenanigans, you're going to visit all these forests, and by the end, you've gone on this adventure, and you meet this mysterious character, and there's a twist at the end. And that's all fictional, but everybody who you meet is real. So I'm stealing all these great ideas from all these other media and putting them in this. Design. This is really the first of its kind. I've done tons and tons of research on what is being made, and I don't believe anyone's trying to do a sort of hybrid, fictional aspects of the story, game elements, and documentary. I believe this is pretty unique and interesting. Next. So I'm really interested in immersing people in the story, so I'm using 360 spherical photography to create these, so you can really look around and kind of observe these places and kind of Where's Waldo feeling of like what's up there in the tree, or what's that thing down there. It's like I really want people to look around. And you have to play as a 15-year-old ready for adventure. So this is a time of your life where you're trying to define who you are, you're trying to do things on your own, and I really want to drive the story in that direction. A, for the audience, and B, like I've done some research that 30 to 40-year-olds are really into contemporary YA, and they said the reason is because it's this point in your life where you can be anything and you can do anything, and people love reliving that aspect of their life. And so it's like, well, why not put this in this story and see if people kind of go crazy. And the idea is really to discover the stories that I'm hiding in the forest. I'm thinking of it like an Easter egg hunt, and that each path and each user experience is going to be unique to you because you're not going to find the same things in the forest. So what kind of stories am I going to tell? So these are all recovered forests. These are forests that were basically turned into ranch or agriculture land, and they are being returned to native forests, which is why it's called Return of the Native. And some of these forests have been around since 1985, and some of them are as new as 2005. So, there's a very range of how old these forests are, but, it's amazing that when you go to these places, it used to just be grass, and then you're like, wow, there's a full forest full of birds. Like, there's a story of how those forests came back to where they are now, and the stories of the people who have either worked in those forests or grew up with those forests, and learning about these places that if you just went there, you're just like, oh, it's some trees, but you get stories to tell you what the value of this place is and what it was before and maybe 100 years ago. And, there's some really cool stuff with that. So, and, I'm talking to scientists, hunters, naturalists, Hawaiian culture experts, and historians. I'm working with the Bishop Museum to get some of their rare specimens into the forest, back into the forest. Like there's a really well-known bird called the mamo that used to live on this island, and they have specimens that are collected from some of these forests that died out like 100 years ago. So I want to stick these stuffed birds in some, digitize them and get them back to where they used to live, because now they're not there, and it's kind of like, oh, this is the forest they used to live in. Like, I kind of love that idea of bringing back the dead. And yeah, I'm going to share with you some video content. Yes. Or should I wait on that since? Or should I show the demo first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll show the demo first. Where is it? Thank you for driving, by the way, since I keep hitting the wrong button. Okay. Is the audio on? No, you're going to try to do the.
There's an echo feedback loop because it's playing through there and it's picking up the line. Yeah. So no stop for now.
Okay, well.
Unless you turn your mic on.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Okay, I just wanted to mention if you wanted to check this out, you can. It is online at worm-media.com/demo. And yeah, it's just a little taste. I actually got to participate in a PBS digital hackathon in LA last month. Or actually, yeah. And my project was selected to participate. So in 30 hours, I had 2 developers, a front-end and a back-end JavaScript developer, my photographer who helped build all the spherical panoramas that you just saw, because she shot it, but we had to actually compile all the photos into a picture that you could actually load. And then I just coordinated and helped out with other stuff. But we built that in about 30 hours, which is pretty amazing. And we used like a technology called Pano, which we had never used before, and we're just like, let's try this, and it worked. But this is web-based, but obviously for the final, I would like to do iOS, so there's not the loading and that sort of thing. But that being said, I'm in the process of doing all the fundraising, and my producer Rosa is here, visiting from New York City. And yeah, and so far it's been really great. I've been hanging out with some really cool people in really amazing forests, and I am really excited to share some of these places with people. So yeah, hopefully maybe I'll get to work with some of you and when I get to build this. So I'm really right at the beginning part. So, but thanks for having me. And do I do questions? Yes.
Disembodied voice.
Disembodied voice.
Yes, you talked about scanning birds.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been thinking of that myself, all the extinct birds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad because they're in the university and they've got drawers full of these extinct birds.
Yep.
And they're all sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody could digitize them,
Yep.
maybe even animate them, they would kind of come to life. So
Yeah.
is there some effort? Is anybody...
So actually, it just so happens I'm working with curators of the Bishop Museum because they have like the largest collection of Hawaiian animals and plants and birds, and they are in the process of digitizing their archive, but they don't have any current plans to display them in the museum. So it's really great that I'm getting to work with them because this is an opportunity to get some of their collection into the public domain, and because to get to see them, you literally have to make an appointment with these people, and then they take you to the room and they take you to the shelves. It's like the accessibility for those specimens is difficult.
Yeah.
So it's nice that I'm getting to work with them to bring some of these really rare specimens to in a place that people can see them, because they can't display them in the museum. And the other exciting thing is I actually might end up doing an interactive bird installation with them because they need one. So I'm like, hey, I might know a thing or two about birds and forests and interactivity. So
have you thought about animating them too?
I have thought about them, yes, because my background is I also have a background in animation, and so my 2 films that my other documentaries have animation in them, and so everyone's like, are you going to animate something? Because I've been animating, and it's like, well, maybe, we'll see.
Okay.
If I need to animate, I will animate. But there's a lot of moving pieces on this project, so.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So polite. This is Hawaii.
Yeah, so this is actually, when I used to work for SDAP, we did something really similar.
Mm-hmm.
We have like these gigapants that we took,
Yeah.
and we put them underwater. Have you talked with those guys already? Okay, right on.
Well, I mean, I haven't talked to them, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, so there's other kind of so I see they were using something really similar where you have these gigapants and you got these objects, you can move on to the next thing and see the next gigapan, and then there's certain information things. But I saw you should talk to Nick Turner. I think he comes here every once in a while.
Cool.
And they have this other program where you can actually put meshes in it. So it's not only just like you see everything and everything's beautiful, you can actually put 3D objects inside it.
Wow.
So it's like you look everywhere, but then you can actually have an object there they can move around too.
Cool.
And talking about digitizing birds, we actually digitized a skull, and I 3D printed it.
Nice.
And they have there, but and it's also one of those things you can pick up. So they've got a little bit of experience. They'll probably know what kind of programs. They've tested some, so they might be a good resource to.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, for now.
when I wanted to mention, there's one other aspect of I didn't get to cover, but I am going to cover the spiritual aspect of the forest, which is and like because the gods lived in the forest, and so I literally want some of the trees to start talking, and like forest spirits and amakua kind of chasing you around, because Hawaiians really believe that, and that is one of the unique things about these forests, that a lot of the plants are named, because of the spiritual relationship to the gods, and that's. So I literally want to animate that aspect of the forest as well, but I haven't gotten to that yet. Yes.
That was, sorry, I'm short. That was one of my questions. I had a couple questions actually. For the permission chant, when you say that permission chant, because actually that reminded me, I memorized that for hula. You can't enter until you get the chant back. Are you going to have like a kumu or somebody give the response to that? And be like a disembodied voice that gives you permission to enter the forest?
Potentially. Like I'm picking different themes for every forest. So the one of the forests has a strong Hawaiian cultural connection. It's called Va'okelopuna, and that is where the hula dancers harvest plants. And there's also like a strong history, like the royal family used to own that land. So that the Hawaiian story is going to be specifically that forest, and that's the theme. Like Hakalau is the first forest of this. This is birds. This forest is known for its birds. So every forest will have its thing. Like there's another dry forest that's famous for its flowers. So it'll have different things that it focuses on, so you don't feel like you're getting the same story.
Gotcha. Are you focusing on? Are you doing the dryland forest?
Yes.
Okay. And are you doing anything with Amy Greenwell, which is a division of Bishop?
I have not visited there yet, but it is on my list of places to visit.
Oh, okay.
But I probably won't, since it's not a it's like a education plant. It's more of like a greenhouse botanical garden, as opposed to a reforestation project for native species or for endangered plants. So I'm focusing on forests that are used for primarily those reasons.
And my last question, are you working with the local seed banks? Because I know that there's a seed bank over in West Hawaii that's working on some reforestation projects.
It's very likely I'll run into them at some point. I'm kind of crossing paths and running into anyone who works in this field, but I'm also talking to hunters, because they have like amazing knowledge of these forests and land in a totally different way. They look at the forests in very different ways, but I want that diversity of voice and not just the scientists, because there's people who are really attached to certain places because they grew up really close to that forest, and I love those stories, when they talk about their families and they talk about growing up, being their backyard, like those are fantastic stories that no one's heard. So I'm trying to collect all of those. So if you know people who have those relationships, totally call me. I'm talking to a lot of people.
Well, I just want to say great job. I've heard the word transmedia kind of in the past couple months, and I don't think I really understood what that meant, and this is kind of make a lot more sense for me. I was just wondering if you guys are part of the GVS Transmedia Accelerator. It seems like exactly the kind of thing that
I am not, actually. I found out about it late, and I think Don told me about it. But I just missed their deadline, so I was like,
cool.
To apply. But yeah, and I mean the whole transmedia thing. I feel like in the 90s it would have been called multimedia. It's just this is the term they're using now, and I specifically, I don't know how much of you have heard this term besides you, but it usually means there's a film or there's like 2 or more media forms that cross channels. So it'd be like it's a movie and a game, or it's a website and a book. Like that's technically what transmedia is, but they tend to use it just to mean interactive stuff, which I'm like, because trans means cross, right? But I don't feel like people necessarily, that would mean you have more than one platform, and I'm pretty much sticking just to the iPad on this. And people are like, Oculus Rift, this would be so cool for Oculus Rift. I'm like, oh my god, that's a little much. And maybe in a couple years, if this is really popular, which is, maybe there'll be Return of the Native Maui or Kauai, because people keep trying to get me to go their forest on other islands. I'm like, no, I'm really just going to stay on this island, because you have to be able to drive it on a truck around. As a 15-year-old, I can't get you flying on a plane, and it's, you got to be on this island. So, yeah. Well, any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, your overall experience with dealing with working on this project thus far, working with the people here, working with the developers, working with generally everything, like kind of like almost like a post-mortem type of thing.
Well, seeing that it's not really built yet, I'm at the conceptual phase and the fundraising phase, and that, you know, I'm fortunate that I got to participate in the hackathon, which means I have a demo, and thankfully one of my developers is so passionate about the project. He's still working for free and tweaking and making adjustments, and he's in Los Angeles. But I was encouraged by two of my technology advisors to really try to work locally and try to find developers who are on the Big Island who care about these places, because it'll make it so much more powerful to be able to present a project. It's like, yeah, this is totally homegrown, local grown, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I started trying to find technology people on the Big Island, since I decided to move back to work on this. Because one of my characters was like, because I came back in December and I was living in Portland, and he's like, how are you going to work on this in Portland? And I'm like, I'll have to come back. He's like, that seems really hard. It's like, I might have to just move back here. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I have more time to meet everyone, and I don't have to rush or do everything in like 3 weeks, which is what I tried to do. And it's really hard because everyone's kind of, especially in December, like, oh, just call me later. And I'm like, I have only, you know, this much time, and you can't rush local people, right? There are people who live here, so it works much better that I'm here now. But yeah, so in terms of the process, I started this in December. Yeah, I brought two of my friends from New York I'd been wanting to work with. I'm like, hey, you know, are you free? Like, you know, like, I've been kicking around this project, and they ended up being available, and they came out, and things sort of just started rolling down this hill, and I'm like, I got to keep working on this. It's got a lot of momentum, and yeah, it's been really great. I mean, I've been working with so many interesting people and met so many cool people through this project, so I'm really excited to hopefully present it on the mainland too. When it gets done, but yeah, so far so good. I mean, it's been what, 6 months since then, and it just people keep getting added to the project, and that's been one of the really exciting parts. And meeting people here, it's like Hilo has a tech scene, yes.
One more question. I was
Okay.
gonna say, so in terms of so what, I was just gonna ask, like, what are your next steps for this project in particular? Like,
Wow.
Yeah.
The next step is me and Rosa are working on a crowdfunding campaign, which we're going to launch on July 7th. So any support would be great. Like us on Facebook, Return to the Native Hawaii, and yeah, we're really going to kick off this push to get the crowdfunding, because, you know, I've made all these connections, and, you know, I have connections on the mainland because I've been away a long time, and making my connections here, and it's connecting all these really great communities that normally would never talk to each other. You know, like the guy who's, you know, killing weeds on top of Mauna Kea. It's like, at some point, you guys might run into these people, and you might, like, you know them because you might be working with me. I mean, that seems how it you know, they introduce me to somebody, and then they introduce me to somebody, and so it's like, you know how it is. But, you know, it's a really cool way to, you know, even just cross the lines with the hunters and the conservationists. I don't know how much you guys know about that, but they don't always align, and so that's been interesting. And, you know, it's just bringing all these different communities together, because I think everyone cares about forests, and they want to protect these places because they're so rare, you know. They're so endangered, and nobody can go there because they're endangered. So this is, to me, a nice way to tell stories about this place that at least people can know that they're there, and maybe try to volunteer. Oh, the other thing is, the only way you can visit them in real life is you have to volunteer. So that was also a criteria. So if you really care and you really want to do something, you can actually sign up to volunteer. You can plant some trees, and you camp up there for like 2 days, and, you know, it's an amazing experience. And I think that's like a cool thing, that at the end of this you can actually do something, or going through the story, I should say.
So do you only do cover forests that people can volunteer at?
Yes, that was a criteria when I selected the forests that I was going to work with.
Oh, okay. There's a koa forest that's in Hamakua,
Mhm.
and it's the 3rd largest ancient growth koa forest
Mhm.
in the planet.
Mhm.
and it's for sale.
Yeah.
And so it may or may not go to harvest.
Mhm.
So that would be like a good one to like get in there and film it now in case it does.
Well, the
But-
problem with a lot of the private land is like I can't get access to them usually. Most of these are state, federal, or conservation lands, because like unless you like are friends with someone, like it to get access to private land is very difficult. Even getting access to like Kamehameha is a little challenging, but like the access is, I would say, is probably the hardest part of this project is to get into these forests. Like you have to have a permit and you have to reason and know the right people, and that's been the fun and difficult part. But if you have connections, let me know. Cool. Can I pass this back? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Larry. You want to take this one? All right.
So thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Thanks for all the Hawaii TechWorks members: Bahi, John Brown, Charles Houston, Noka Jung, Tony Barzi, the founder, Kent Olson, Mike Purvis, and Andrew Russells. Also the Hawaii TechWorks sponsors: Cost Recovery Systems Incorporated, Nalukai, HCEOC, and Aloha Made, and HTDC, and special thanks to me, apparently. Thanks.
I guess I'm on closing. All right, yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and I guess help clean up and whatnot. Yeah, and now it's just time for networking, and feel free to get more information. Oh, and goodbye to the online audience. All of you out there in cyberspace.